In a land defined by sand and sun, a river was born not from nature, but from sheer will. Across the stark deserts of the Middle East, under a burning sky, the nation of Israel accomplished a feat that captured the world's attention. They etched more than 12,000 kilometers of canals through the unforgiving landscape, creating a colossal artificial river. This network channels billions of liters of water from the Mediterranean Sea, a lifeline drawn through the heart of an arid country to make it bloom. But this monumental effort was only the beginning. The next challenge was to transform that vast quantity of seawater into fresh, drinkable water. This transformation takes place within enormous desalination plants, powered by some of the most advanced technology ever developed. Where the land offered only thirst, the sea held an impossible promise. For generations, the Negev desert in southern Israel was a landscape of death, its soil baked and fractured, resisting any attempt at cultivation. In the summer, the air itself seemed to burn, with temperatures climbing above 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Brief, fleeting rains offered little relief as the deep underground aquifers receded with each passing year. The nation's agricultural lifeline was stretched to its breaking point, forcing families to depend on water trucked in from distant lands. Yet just a few dozen miles from this unforgiving terrain lay the vast Mediterranean, an endless expanse of salt water. This stark contrast ignited one of Israel's most audacious gambles, to draw the sea deep into the desert's heart. Officially sanctioned in the year 2000, the Desert Water Project began with an investment of nearly $3 billion. With this monumental commitment, the nation set out not just to make the desert bloom, but to command new rivers to carve their way through the sand. The desert itself was the first great obstacle, a landscape of shifting sands that had to be tamed before it could be transformed. Long before the first drop of water could flow, this hard, barren expanse had to become a workable construction site. From orbit, high-resolution satellites mapped the terrain, while ground-penetrating radar peered beneath the surface. Thousands of wind measurements charted the invisible currents of air, revealing the most stable ground amid the ever-shifting dunes. For months, survey teams made the heart of the Negev their home, drilling hundreds of boreholes more than 100 feet deep to read the geological story written in the layers below. Each marker for the canal's path was set by hand, its position recorded with centimeter-level precision. This meticulous alignment was designed to sidestep the powerful wind corridors, where a single storm could erase an entire worksite overnight. Then a fleet of hundreds of bulldozers descended, carving down the high ridges and pushing the sand into the valleys below. Their goal was a smooth, balanced surface, engineered to support heavy machinery without the threat of collapse. Under the watchful eyes of surveyors, every section was scraped and leveled, checking elevation and slope to ensure perfect uniformity across miles of open desert. Conveyor systems carried excess sand away from the work zone, while compactors gently pressed the surface, creating a firm foundation. Yet even after the dunes were flattened, the sand remained dangerously loose. Engineers found a simple solution, injecting water into the surface to bind the grains together into a denser, more cohesive layer. Using long sprinkler arms and a network of underground pipes, they sprayed controlled amounts of groundwater across the site. The moisture was allowed to penetrate several inches deep, and once the sand reached the ideal dampness, the heavy rollers moved in. The constant rumble of steel drums echoed across the landscape, as each pass squeezed the air from between the particles, locking them in place. As the surface dried under the desert sun, it hardened into a solid roadbed, a foundation built from nothing more than sand and water. Under a sun that baked the very air, an army of machines began to carve a new river from the dust. With the groundwork laid, a fleet of hundreds of excavators and colossal dump trucks ignited one of the most ambitious digging operations in Israel's modern history. Each day, a staggering 70,000 tons of sand and soil were clawed from the Negev, carving a construction corridor that stretched for nearly 250 miles. A force of over 1,200 engineers, operators, and laborers toiled in relentless shifts, braving daytime temperatures that frequently soared past 115 degrees Fahrenheit. The channel itself took shape with a broad U-profile, measuring about 150 feet across its base and plunging to an average depth of 23 feet. To ensure water could flow by gravity alone, the longitudinal slope was maintained within 1 inch for every 100 feet, a margin of breathtaking precision over such a vast distance. Survey crews constantly rechecked the elevation, using laser leveling instruments every 160 feet to keep the canal floor perfectly graded. Most of the excavated sand found a new purpose, piled high on both sides to form protective levees between 10 and 16 feet high. In hilly terrain, bulldozers meticulously cut down through the layers step by step, while in lower areas, trucks hauled and stabilized fill material until the correct grade was achieved. Where the soil was weak, engineers drove 16-inch sand piles up to 20 or 25 feet deep, or fortified the base with a mixture of cement and clay to prevent it from settling. The construction sites themselves became a sprawling network of concrete plants, mechanical workshops, and field engineer camps. Beneath the scorching sun and through swirling dust, long convoys of trucks and machines moved in a ceaseless procession, a mechanical river etching the path of a real one into the heart of the Negev desert. Here the sand itself is thirsty. In the heart of the Negev, any exposed water would vanish in hours, swallowed by the arid earth. After months of excavation, this reality made the next phase the project's most critical. The canal bed had to be perfectly sealed against the desert's relentless thirst. The process began by moistening the raw earth, then leveling the bed in slopes with a delicate 2-inch layer of fine sand. Crews then poured concrete panels roughly 4 to 5 inches thick, forming sections 16 feet long by 10 feet wide. Each panel was carefully separated by expansion joints, which were later filled with a hot bitumen sealant to prevent seepage while allowing for thermal movement. Where the subsoil proved unstable, an additional HDPE geomembrane was laid beneath the concrete. This waterproof barrier was secured with steel anchors and shielded by a protective cushion of sand. In total, over 220 miles of canal were lined, creating one of the largest waterproofing systems ever constructed in the Middle East. To stabilize the newly formed embankments, engineers planted hardy vetiver grass and desert acacia, anchoring the slopes and minimizing the drift of sand. Seen from above, the finished channel cuts across the sea of gold like a shimmering silver ribbon, a concrete artery waiting to carry its first life-giving pulse into the desert. It is far more than a simple channel cut through the earth. A colossal canal is a complex organism, a network of arteries and veins requiring hundreds of engineered structures to manage transport, control floods, and regulate the precious flow of water. The entire system begins at the town sub-barrage, where a massive head regulator was constructed. It is here that the powerful Indus River is tamed, its waters carefully diverted into the canal through 9 enormous steel gates. Along the main route, a staggering collection of more than 900 different engineering components comes into view, from concrete bridges and spillways to siphons and drainage culverts. Wherever the canal's path crosses a road or railway, a new bridge rises to keep traffic moving seamlessly. In sections that intersect with natural waterways, large cross-drainage conduits are installed, allowing the ancient streams to flow unimpeded beneath the modern canal. Further downstream, distribution gates appear every 6 to 9 miles, precisely controlling the water's release into smaller, secondary branches. Every piece must function in perfect concert. A single failure, a jammed gate or a fractured aqueduct, could instantly sever the lifeline for hundreds of hectares of farmland, leaving them to wither under the sun. For generations, it was a dream etched in dust. Then, after more than 15 years of labor, the river was finally coming home. The monumental project at last reached its crucial water testing phase. At the town of Sabaraj, engineers opened the gates, allowing the Indus River to surge into the channel. The flow was carefully managed, released section by section, its discharge rising from 500 to 2,000 and finally to 6,000 cusecs. All along its path, technical teams meticulously inspected every detail. They measured pressure, searched for leaks, monitored the delicate slopes of the canal, and recorded even the slightest ground movement. Any deviation was swiftly corrected before the system could be declared fully operational. As the first rush of water carved its way through the cracked, dry canal bed, the regions of Dera Bugti and Yal Magsi erupted in celebration. Locals would call it the day the desert came back to life. Wherever the water reached, cheers followed, not just for a flow of water, but for a flow of hope. It was the fulfillment of a dream that generations of farmers had waited their entire lives to witness. The desert finally has its river, but to drink from it would be poison. Water from the Mediterranean now courses through an artificial river carved into the sand. Yet this is still the sea's water. And in the desert, salt can be a threat far greater than drought itself. To become a lifeline for millions, it must first navigate an intelligent desalination system, a network of advanced technology stretching from the coast deep into the heart of the land. The process begins with a series of mechanical filters, followed by sand settling and oil separation. From there, it enters nanofiltration and reverse osmosis, a stage designed to strip away every last salt molecule, leaving nothing but pure, clean water. Digital sensors act as silent guardians, constantly monitoring salinity, pressure, and flow. They automatically adjust the system to ensure the highest standards of purity are met at every moment. Only when it has passed through these layers of control is the water released into the main canal. It begins a journey of hundreds of miles across the Negev desert, no longer seawater, but a true lifeline for a nation built on hope and resilience. While the pre-treatment stage has captured large debris and sediments, the water still carries countless fine particles and microscopic organisms. A phase of fine filtration is introduced to prevent these contaminants from clogging the heart of the technology that follows. Inside massive filtration tanks, black hollow fiber membranes serve as ultra-thin barriers, intercepting algae, bacteria, and even the smallest remaining particles. These initial filtration stages are merely the beginning, as the decisive phase unfolds within the reverse osmosis system. Here, immense pressure forces the seawater through semi-permeable membranes, each pore hundreds of times smaller than a human hair. This invisible wall permits only pure H2O molecules to pass, leaving salts, heavy metals, and trace chemicals behind. High-pressure pumps generate tens of bars of compression, transforming the salty, murky mix into a stream of almost perfect purity. Yet as it emerges from the reverse osmosis modules, the water is so pure it has become almost empty, and this very emptiness must be corrected. Precise dosing systems introduce small amounts of calcium and magnesium, rebalancing the pH and restoring a clean, natural taste. Disinfection comes next. Ultraviolet light, or sometimes ozone, eliminates any lingering microorganisms, while a trace of chlorine guarantees long-term safety as the water travels through the pipelines. Every parameter is monitored in real time, and lab samples are analyzed constantly. Only when all standards are met is the water pumped from storage tanks into the distribution network. From there, it flows through miles of underground pipes to homes, hospitals, and factories. It is a complete cycle where the salt of the ocean is transformed into safe, drinkable water. A testament to the remarkable power of modern technology. A single drop can awaken a desert. A river can build a nation. As the first currents of water carved their path through the Negev, a profound transformation began to unfold. It was a change felt not just on the parched surface of the land, but deep within the lives of its people. Fields that had long surrendered to the sun, cracking under its relentless heat, slowly stirred back to life. Families who had fled the drought returned, driving stakes into the earth and plowing the first furrows of their lives between sand and stone. From the main artery of the national water carrier, the water was meticulously distributed. A web of secondary canals and pressure pipes branched out, feeding the drip irrigation systems that delivered life directly to the root of each plant. This pioneering technology, born from necessity, was designed to conserve every single drop, treating it with the reverence of liquid gold. The monumental undertaking began in 1953. It would take over 11 years to complete, at a cost of roughly 420 million Israeli lira, an investment equivalent to hundreds of millions of dollars at the time. Once the system was operational, it could move up to 72,000 cubic meters of water every hour, a ceaseless flow from the lush north to the arid south. The results were astonishing. Regions once deemed hopeless blossomed into thriving agricultural zones. In those early years, tens of thousands of acres of farmland turned a vibrant green. Where only dust and sun had reigned, now stood orange groves, sprawling vineyards, and fields of wheat. Vegetable farms and rows of date palms, heavy with fruit, redefined the horizon. Viewed from space, this new reality appears as a long, verdant ribbon winding across the Golden Desert. It is the green artery of Israel, an artificial lifeline connecting the two halves of the country. But the transformation extended far beyond the fields. Villages were rebuilt, children attended new schools, and high-tech farms rose from the sand, a testament to what a single, sustained vision could achieve. A river born from the desert, a miracle drawn from the sea. The story is written across a landscape re-engineered by human hands, with billions of tons of sand carved away to forge this new artery of life. Here, the impossible becomes reality, as the salt of the ocean is stripped away to quench the thirst of a nation. It stands as a monumental testament to ingenuity, a testament to turning the barren into the bountiful.